listening to the Animal Free Labcast, the podcast that puts humans, not animals, at the heart of medical research. Hello everyone, welcome to the Animal Free Labcast. I am back again today with my co-host, Dr. Gemma Davies. Hiya Gemma.
Hi Carla, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. Gemma, tell us what we've got happening on today's episode.
So February is Heart Month, so we're going to be talking all about animal-free heart research.
Fabulous. My head is full of hearts.
I'm not surprised, it's just been Valentine's Day.
Well, before we get started on that, tell us about the poll results from last time.
Yeah, so if you remember, the question was, do you think it's time for cancer researchers to embrace non-animal methods in their work? And it's yes or no. And we had 726 responses for yes.
Ooh,
and
that's lots.
It is a lot. And we also had 6 that were no. So yeah, it's kind of like we were talking about last time. You know, a lot of people do want to carry on using animals in their work. So yeah, I'm not surprised we had a couple of no's there, but
less than 1% though, if my math serves me correctly.
Exactly.
Which probably doesn't, but yeah.
No, I think that sounds right. But thank you to everyone for taking part and taking the time to vote.
Yeah. We've got a slightly more controversial question coming up a bit later, so we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. So what's grabbed your attention this week, Carla?
Well, last week was a really big week for Herbie's Law. So we've written about this on our socials and in the Animal Free Lab stack, but I think it's just, so big. Yeah. They're probably never to be repeated that it's worth talking about again.
Exactly.
So we had not one, but 3 mentions of Herbie's Law in Parliament last week, which is huge, both in the House of Commons and the House of Lords, which just very rarely happens. So
that's amazing, yeah.
Yeah, really good. So last Monday in the House of Lords, Baronet Natalie Bennett, who represents the Green Party, she called on the government to implement a Human-Specific Technologies Act, which is the official kind of formal name for Herbie's Law. And she talked about the high failure rate of cancer drugs, as we were talking about last time, 95% failure rate, and also of Alzheimer's treatments, which has got a staggering 99% failure rate. So she made that clear in the House of Lords. And also talked about the promising results in animal tests. When we do see those, they don't often translate into success in human trials. Hence those big failure rates. So that was really good that she was able to raise the profile of this issue and talk about Herbie's Law in the House of Lords.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And then in the House of Commons on Wednesday, the chair of the all-party parliamentary group on phasing out animal experiments in medical research, that's the APPG, you might have heard us talk about that. So Irene Campbell is the chair of that. And she secured a question on the floor of the House of Commons. So she asked the Minister for Science, Innovation and Technology what steps they're taking with scientists to phase out animal testing. We're going to hear a little bit of the clip there. The person responding is Chris Bryant, who's one of the ministers at the Department of for Science, Innovation and Technology.
Our aim is to phase out animal testing as soon as is practicable. We've been working closely with science, and that was a manifesto commitment of ours. We have been meeting with scientists and with other departments because it's not a sole responsibility of DSIT, and we intend to publish a strategy by the end of this year to make good on our manifesto commitment.
Irene Campbell.
I'm grateful to the Minister for his answer. I'm the chair of the APPG on phasing out animal experiments in medical research, where members from all parties can work together to push for scientific experiments which do not rely on animal cruelty and encourage a focus on non-animal replacements. Would the Minister meet with me and the APPG to discuss future plans and strategy for the manifesto commitment on phasing out animal testing?
I didn't know that she'd taken over the APPG. I think it's a really good thing that exists, and we will work very closely with the APPG, whether I'm the right minister or there's a more intelligent minister who might be of more assistance to her, or a more charming one perhaps, who might be of more assistance to her. I will make sure she gets all the ministers that she needs.
So, as I said, Chris Bryant there being very charming indeed, and telling Irene Campbell, the chair of the APPG that we helped to run, that he's very delighted that the APPG exists, which is fantastic to hear, and to make sure that she gets all the ministers she needs, which we're very delighted about.
I know, what more could you ask for there?
Well, we could ask for the actual ban itself, but we will be pushing to get to make sure they uphold that commitment to get all the ministers that Irene and the other APPG members need. So watch this space on that one. And then following Irene's question, another member of the APPG, Ben Obsijekti, also raised his concerns about animal testing, saying that he opposes it, and he called for the publication of a timeline of which tests will be phased out and when. So again, we'll be keeping a close eye on what the government's planning to do, but they have said they will be they are planning to publish their strategy later in the year. So what do you think, Gemma? How do you think this is going?
Well, that's really exciting news, and that's so many big things to happen all in the space of 1 week. It's really exciting progress. And it sounds like, we are starting to get some real kind of almost concrete commitments. We're going to have a strategy, we're going to have, all the ministers that we need. So this is really exciting, really positive.
Definitely building momentum. If you're listening as one of our lovely supporters who helps by making donations, then I just wanted to let you know that Isabel, who is our public affairs director, who we interviewed a couple of weeks ago for the podcast, she's going to be sending you a letter soon with an update, a special update on Herbie's law, and also an important appeal. Obviously, we know times are really tough. It's tough for us as well as a charity. We're so grateful for your support, and we'll be once again calling on you to help us drive this campaign forward. As Gemma was saying, we're really building up the momentum, so we just need everybody's help to kind of keep pushing that and help us to keep on going with it. So Gemma, what's grabbed your attention over the last couple of weeks?
Well, last week it was the International Day of Women and Girls in STEM on the 11th of February.
It was.
So this is a really exciting day to celebrate women working in STEM subjects, which are science, technology, engineering and mathematics. And of course, these are fields that have traditionally been dominated by men. But in recent years, the number of girls pursuing science seems to be on the rise, which is really great news.
Yeah.
So according to some recent figures, there was a 31% increase in girls choosing STEM subjects at A-level between 2010 and 2019. So really kind of positive change there. But despite this progress, women still only make up about 25% of the UK STEM workforce and only about 30% of the global workforce. So we still seem to have quite a long way to go to make sure that we are reaching true equality.
Yeah.
But it's unclear why this is the case, because other recent data has shown that about 69% of biomedical science students are actually female. And doing a degree like that could lead you into a career in the NHS or academia or industry, lots of different science-based options. But we find that in academia, as women progress through the stages of the industry, their representation declines. So while around 39% of PhD students are female, only around 29% of non-professorial staff are female, and then just 9% of professors are women.
So we're starting out quite well with having women and girls in science, and then as you go up the ranks to the kind of top jobs, you're just not seeing women there.
Numbers start to dwindle. And it's strange because, clearly girls are doing these science-based degrees, they have the skills and the qualifications, but they don't seem to be staying in STEM careers. And I think one of the key barriers is obviously getting the right work-life balance. Lots of women have to take career breaks to have children and take maternity leave, and they often end up taking the majority of caregiving responsibilities afterwards as well, which can lead people to feel like they're falling behind or missing opportunities, and sometimes end up stepping away from their careers. I've spoken to people who've even had sort of negative comments on applications where they've been criticised for taking career breaks for maternity leave.
That's
and
outrageous, isn't it?
Exactly. And they felt like this is having a negative impact on their future opportunities. So it can make women feel a bit like they have to take a choice between their career or having a family. But of course, life is about so much more than just working for a paycheck, and women need to be supported to be able to have both a family and a career without the fear of losing out. So we really do need to make sure that some support systems are in place to support women and they're not penalised for making life choices. Because, of course, STEM subjects are essential for moving research forward. And to make sure that we do truly succeed, we need to have diverse input from people from all walks of life.
Absolutely.
And we really do need to support and champion female scientists so they get these same opportunities and encouragement at every stage of their career.
I would certainly say, from what I see here at Animal Free Research UK, that it is women who are leading the animal free science innovation revolution. Like, it's women who are, our grant holders, not all of them obviously, but we're definitely seeing women kind of playing their part in animal free research. So we really need everybody doing
absolutely
their part.
And it's really great that over half of our current active grant holders are female. So, we are making sure we're leading the way in equality. It's great.
Fantastic. Well, we're very proud of all of the scientists who are doing animal free research, both, through our grant funding and through other funding. So, definitely want to see that good representation continue.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Gemma, as you said before, our heads are full of hearts because it's Heart Month. We've just had Valentine's Day. So we thought we'd talk about heart research. It's not all good news for animals, though, is it?
No, not really. So cardiovascular research is a really high area of animal use. And in 2023, around 53,000 animals were used in general heart disease or heart research. And it's an area that uses lots of larger animals as well. So depending on what type of heart disease you're trying to study, but people use things like pigs and sheep, goats and dogs, but also lots of small animals like mice and rats and even fish.
Gosh, so the full range really then?
Yeah, pretty much everything. But the experiments they tend to be quite severe, and the animals do die in most cases. So it's really, difficult area of research.
And severe, when you say severe, that's an actual formal category of suffering, isn't it, that the Home Office defines? So it's not just kind of, this is the worst of the worst, isn't it?
Exactly. It's likely to cause significant pain and suffering to that animal.
So tell us a little bit about it then, without going into too much of the, difficult and gory detail, Gemma. Tell us about what's happening to pigs or dogs.
Yeah, so one of the main problems with using animals for heart research is that even though animals like pigs and, these sort of other animals are thought to have quite similar hearts and cardiovascular systems to humans, they do have some quite important differences to ours. So, for example, it can be things like differences in anatomy. Animal hearts are different shapes and sizes, or veins and arteries might be in different places. For example, in a pig, the right atrium, the sort of chamber that the blood goes into, it's sort of a tubular shape, but in the human heart, that shape is actually on the left side, and that could make a really important difference to the results of an experiment. And there's also things like, if you think about our posture, we stand on 2 legs, whereas a pig stands on 4 legs. That can affect things like blood flow, and it can make things work differently. And then also we have to consider that animals' hearts might beat at a different speed to ours. So, for example, a mouse heart beats 500 times a minute, which is 10 times faster than a human heart.
Gosh, that's a big difference.
It is. That's going to really affect the results of an experiment. So all these differences really can cause difficulties in translating the results from these experiments into human research, which could lead us down the wrong path with understanding how our bodies work and then trying to develop drugs to treat human heart diseases. So
I feel like a lot of times when we're talking to researchers, the differences between animals and humans are often on quite a microbiological level, like be it a genetic level or a DNA level or something, quite invisible to the human eye. But what you've just described there is very obvious stuff.
Yeah.
Like the heart is a different shape. It's in a different location. It beats harder. It's not taking like a genius scientist to work that out, right?
Exactly. It's kind of, these differences are well known as well. They're well documented, but it's almost like we kind of make exceptions because there hasn't previously been better ways to do this research. Maybe
it's just what we've always done.
It's what we've always done.
Carry on doing it.
Yeah. Exactly. And then that leads into, these high drug failure rates and diseases that we have no treatments for currently.
Like Natalie Bennett was explaining to the House of Lords earlier in the week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so animals aside from the ethical concerns, which, we will share, and we don't want to be using animals at all, but also it's not scientifically good, not anatomically good. Yeah. So what are the alternatives? I'm sure there are some.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's lots of different ways that we can study the human heart without using animals. And this can be using human heart cells and tissues. Things like organ on a chip technology is showing great success.
Organ on a chip.
Exactly. Yeah, it's absolutely, shining in heart research. Because we can grow heart cells and grow them in the chip. We can also study really specific things like aneurysm on a chip or blood clots on a chip. We can really delve into the details of these different things that we can't specifically study in animals. And they can then be combined with other cell types, like from the brain or the kidney, and we can understand how these cells interact with each other, and then also how they're all affected by different drugs and things.
Oh, like body on a chip.
That's it. Exactly. So we can use patient-derived stem cells and human tissue samples, and also tissue engineering to grow new human heart valves and tissues that we can use to replace damaged heart tissues, and that can be personalised to an individual person.
So I remember talking with Professor Chris Denning at the University of Nottingham about his amazing heart research.
Yeah.
If people want to kind of dive into that, I did a podcast episode with him a year or two ago. It's really fascinating, and we've got loads of stuff on our website. But I've been to the lab. It's so good. Their lab's amazing. And seeing these tiny hearts actually beating. It's so good.
It's incredible. Yeah. So Chris's lab is based at the University of Nottingham, and, he's been working on these mini hearts for quite a few years. So, he's really established in this, and the work that he's doing is incredible. And yeah, like you say, you can see the cells beating just like they do in our hearts, and that means that we can use those to study different heart diseases, to test new drugs. And Chris is really an innovator and sort of leading the way in this area of research.
He's absolutely at the forefront of this stuff, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's fabulous, and I think we've got a video of that on our website if people want to see.
Yeah, we do. And Chris also recently won our Supporters' Choice Award, which is fantastic for this work. So yeah, if you're interested, have a look on our website because it is amazing.
Yeah, their work's fabulous.
Yeah. And we've also got another Animal Free project, which is Dr. Rebecca Burton at the University of Liverpool. And she's using human heart cells to study cardiac arrhythmia or irregular heartbeat, which is what you've talked about in your LabStack this week, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the most recent LabStack article, yeah.
Yeah. So arrhythmia is an area, or irregular heartbeat, is an area of research that uses lots of animals, again, in quite severe experiments. And the difficulty with this kind of research is that the irregular heartbeat has to be induced, because animals don't naturally develop an irregular heartbeat in the same way that humans do. But then we also have to factor in lots of other things, like how fast the heart beats, but also the strength of the electrical current that causes the heart to contract, which are different between humans and animals. So there's a lot of variables to take in before you've even started your experiment. And one of the problems with this is that if an irregular heartbeat is induced, these symptoms only last for a couple of days before the heart is able to sort of fix itself and go back to its normal pattern. Right. So it means that we can't study heart diseases long term in animals because they don't naturally have this. So one of the benefits of Rebecca Burton's project is she's creating a cell model with 3 different types of cells called a co-culture model. And she's able to study these cells' interactions long term. And she's got access to some really incredible imaging facilities. So she'll be able to study these long term to really see how these cells are working together, and then sort of test new drugs and really understand irregular heartbeat in a different way.
And presumably that's then replacing, I'm guessing, electric shocks. Animals being given electric shocks to make their hearts beat in a different way.
Exactly. Yeah. So these are really horrible
presumably
experiments.
Having those over and over again if their hearts are just readjusting to normal.
Exactly.
Oh, it's horrendous, isn't it?
It is. So this is, a much more ethical and also scientifically better way of studying something like an irregular heartbeat.
Hundreds of thousands of animals, I read when I was looking into Rebecca's research last week. Hundreds of thousands of animals are being used in research into irregular heartbeats every year. I mean, that's staggering. But as you've been saying, Gemma, there are other ways that people can carry out their research that are much more human specific and much more ethical and humane. So well done, Chris and Rebecca, and time for everybody else to catch up, really.
Exactly.
So Gemma, there's loads in popular culture about the use of animals for human organ transplants, including heart transplants. I remember reading some headlines in the news a few years ago about this, and then there's quite a lot in popular culture, like books and TV shows. Mallory Blackman's Pig Heart Boy and Margaret Atwood's Oryx and Crake come to mind that explore these issues. So you were talking before about the differences between human hearts and animal hearts. So how does that work if we're using pig hearts in humans?
Yeah, so the idea of animal heart transplants as a way to treat end-stage human heart diseases has been around, for decades. In the 60s, monkey hearts were first transplanted into humans.
Oh, goodness.
With no success, unfortunately. No. But the reason it hasn't caught on is that it comes with a whole host of different scientific and ethical issues. You would think that we would usually consider monkeys for transplants to humans because, we're always told how similar we are and genetically, they're the closest relatives to us. But of course, there's always a lot of ethical concerns around using monkeys over other animals. Yeah. But interestingly, because when you have a transplant, the amount of immunosuppressive drugs that you need to take to reduce the risk of the new organ being rejected, because monkeys are so similar to us, the risk of them passing a disease through the transplant is so high that it's actually too dangerous to consider even using a monkey.
Oh well, lucky monkey, not lucky monkeys, but thank goodness.
Yeah, but it has been attempted. So back in 1984, a baby girl was given a baboon's heart, but she sadly died 21 days later.
Oh goodness.
So this is
not
why
a good outcome for anyone, is it?
It's not. There's a lot of really difficult emotions and ethics around that. But this is why pig hearts, as I've already mentioned, are kind of considered for transplantation over things like monkeys, and they're thought to be the best possible candidate because their hearts are pretty similar to ours. Like I mentioned, it's slightly, the chambers are on the wrong side and things like that, so they're not exactly the same, but they are the most similar. And also, they're easy to get, and pigs can be genetically modified and are already used in lots of different areas of research. But yeah, you're right, it does feel like we're always kind of being told, or there's something around transplants, in the news or in books and TV shows.
There's a lot of noise about it, isn't there?
There is, but actually there's only been 2 attempts at putting a genetically modified pig heart into a human body. Yeah, it does feel like
healing like this all the time. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And they are actually fairly recent. So the first one was in 2022. A 57-year-old man was given a pig heart, but he sadly died 60 days later. And the second attempt was in 2023, when again a man received a pig heart and he only survived for 40 days. So to make this happen, it was a genetically modified pig that was given 10 different genetic modifications that were supposed to stop the new heart being rejected. They inserted some human genes to try and trick the body into thinking that it wasn't a pig. And also one gene that was supposed to inactivate the growth of the heart so that it wouldn't continue growing and become too big for the person's body. But unfortunately, it didn't work and the heart was rejected, and the patients unfortunately died. So there really is a lot to consider here, because not only have the patient and their families been given false hope that this could work, but also the pig has died to give their heart, and they were given...
It's not just the one pig either. If it's genetic modification, a lot of pigs...
Exactly, would have been involved in the creation, ones that didn't show the right mutations and things like that. So yeah, it's really not just a case of one pig giving a heart. And we don't know what those genetic mutations would have meant for that pig's quality of life either. So it's difficult because, progress in this area is clearly not going well, but these operations and attempted transplants haven't come from nowhere either. So over the years, there's been lots of studies where transplants have been attempted between different animal species. So pig hearts have been put into monkeys to see if that would work. But again, they're facing the same issues. So it really feels like, you're almost hitting a brick wall. And it's a difficult one.
So if scientists say that pig hearts are the most similar to humans, despite the anatomical differences you talked about, Gemma, why aren't they working? And why are, the patients dying?
Yeah, well, the main issue is immune rejection. So our immune system is designed to find and fight off foreign tissues and, foreign invaders, which of course a pig heart transplanted in would be. It would be picked up as a foreign tissue, and the immune system fights it off, and that's exactly what it's designed to do. So patients are given really heavy immunosuppressive medication to try and suppress the immune responses, but then of course that comes with other serious problems because it's it's putting down your entire immune response, which can have a massive effect on your quality of life.
Much more susceptible to other kind of diseases as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is not sounding like a win-win.
It's not.
It's sounding like a lose-lose to me.
It is. And it seems unlikely that they're going to sort of give up on this area of research. But they're doing it because of the significant shortage in the number of human donor hearts or other organs that are available. But it's also been driven because some smaller types of animal to human transplants have actually been successful. So things like heart valves, or using things like pig skin for burn victims, or even pig cornea transplants have been carried out for several years now.
For eyes.
For eyes. So it's because these are smaller sort of areas, they don't have such a drastic immune response, which can be kind of managed with heavy medication. So I really do doubt that they're going to stop trying to apply this to whole organs.
I mean, again, it's something you see a lot of in popular culture, isn't it? This shortage of human organs. If anyone's seen Netflix's Squid Game, quite gory. There's a whole kind of human organ harvesting kind of subplot line going on in there. And then, of course, that classic Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro, which is just an amazing, heartbreaking book and film. Yeah. They've all got storylines about human organ harvesting. I mean, the most successful thing is human to human organ donation, isn't it? So, registering with the NHS organ donor register. Yeah. It's difficult. It's very difficult. We've all got different feelings about that and about whether that's something that we want to consider or not. So something that, everybody should be giving careful consideration to, I think. But certainly using animals, there's a huge cost involved in that. And it's not just, one pig for a person's life. It's all of the many, many animals that have gone into this research over the many, many years, and all of the suffering that involves.
Yeah, exactly. When we haven't actually got a successful outcome from it.
Well, that leads us to our slightly more controversial poll that we thought we'd try out this week. Not sure how this is going to go. Let's ask the poll question, see what people think of it.
Yeah, so the question is, if you needed an organ transplant, would you accept one from an animal? Yes or no?
I'll be interested to see what people make of this.
Yeah.
It's tricky, isn't it? Because I would never, ever, ever, ever want somebody not to take a drug because there's been animal research done. Because all drugs have had animal research. Everything's had animal research, even water, So, yeah, I would never, ever want somebody to feel like, I mustn't take this because animal suffering's been involved. No. Because it is just, sadly, a fact of modern life. But yeah, be really interested to hear what people think about this one.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can vote with your answer on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, X, and also Carla's Substack, the Animal Free Labcast. And we'll discuss the results in the next episode. And also, if you'd like to tell us your thoughts about the poll or anything else from this episode, then please do leave us a message on 0208 054 96 95. That's 0208 054 96 95, and we'll place them in the messages in the next episode.
We really would love to hear what you think about this, because it's tricky. We are grappling with some of the gnarly issues of the day. So yeah, please chime in and tell us what you think. So Gemma, that's all we've got time for today. We're going to have a little break because I am on holiday. So we are going to be back in 3 weeks on the 14th of March. So tell us what we've got coming up then. What's happening in the future?
So by then, it will be British Science Week, which runs from the 7th to the 16th of March.
That's not a week, is it?
No, it's actually 10 days. I'm not sure why.
Okay. British Science 10 days doesn't really roll off the tongue, does it?
No, exactly. But this year's theme is change and adapt, which I think is quite fitting for us.
We would like scientists to change and adapt, yes.
Exactly. So we'll be talking about how some of our grant holders are using animal-free research to change the face of research.
Nice.
And adapt. And adapt how we carry out day-to-day research to remove the reliance on animal-derived products. So very exciting.
That would be very interesting. But in the meantime, please stay part of the conversation by reading my brand new companion blog on Substack. Just search for the Animal Free Lab Stack and you can read and subscribe there. Please do let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much, Gemma, for taking us through the kind of whistle-stop tour of animal-free heart disease. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. And thank you to everyone for listening. We'll see you next time.
See you next time. You've been listening to the Animal Free Labcast, the podcast that puts humans, not animals, at the heart of medical research. If you want to find out about more ways to move to a world of animal-free research, then head to our website, animalfreeresearchuk.org. And if you'd like to send us an audio message about the poll or anything else you've heard in the podcast, then leave us a voicemail on 0208 054 9695. That's 0208 054 9695. Thank you for listening.